Good afternoon and welcome to Refresh. My name's Carrie Overton. This week we're going to be talking about change. Change is something that everybody experiences in life, and people talk about change being inevitable, and it really is. But it doesn't mean, even though everyone experiences it, that it's easy to deal with. In fact, change is enormously difficult. People often talk about how the most stressful things in life that you go through are periods of change, whether that's bereavement, relationship breakup, moving house, changing jobs, all of those sorts of things. And it's important to note that sometimes those changes are chosen, but sometimes change is forced upon us. Restructuring at work, changes in your job, being made redundant, relationship breaks up and bereavement are certainly things that are often not chosen. So what can you do when you're going through those sorts of experiences? Well, one thing that I find really helpful to think about is think of it seasonally. You will go through times in your life over and over again that are like seasons. Sometimes everything's great and you're in this sort of summer season. But you will go into a winter season. But it's important to always keep looking for those signs of spring that you're going to be coming out of it, because that cycle will continue to turn. But when you're going through change, it feels really difficult. And there are stages, much like with grief, that you can go through. First of all, you might find yourself really feeling sort of very, confused and bewildered and sort of angry that it's happening. Why has this happened to me? And because you're surrounded by signs that there has been a change, it can be very confusing because your landscape is really significantly altered. And that confusion, again, drives that anger. This wasn't in my plans. And you can start to isolate yourself, take yourself away from people. And you can fall into a very sort of dark place with change. But it's important that if you are struggling, to reach out and get help, whether it be professionally by seeing somebody who's a coach like me, or a counsellor or a therapist of some sort, or even seeing your GP. But also remember that friends are there to help you. Friends and family can be really useful in dealing with this sort of change. So how do you cope with change when it comes, when it's something that you haven't chosen yourself? Well, the first step really is to acknowledge that this change has happened, because all the time that you're really fighting against it and refusing to accept it, you're causing this sort of tension in the heart of you. And that denial, actually, although it protects us from acknowledging it long term doesn't help us. So how do we accept? Well, there's no silver bullet. There's no quick time or quick fix for it. But it's about being real, and it's about being honest with your feelings and saying, actually, this is how I am and this is how I feel today. If you're angry, be angry. If you're sad and distraught, be sad and distraught. If you're confused, be confused, and acknowledge your feelings. Be honest with yourself that is how you're feeling. I often hear people say, "Oh well, these things happen," and they are diminishing or belittling their own experiences, or they say things like, "Oh well, it could be worse. It could." Well, maybe it could, but actually to you right now, this is a really difficult situation. And if there's one thing I could help you to, or advice I could give, it's okay to find a hard thing hard. That's okay. So acknowledging it and saying, this change has happened to me and I am powerless over it, and this is how I feel, is a really important part of your journey. And it's important to recognise too that even good things can cause stress, even good change. I refer you to anybody you know who's getting married and planning a wedding, that stress levels can often go through the roof when people are planning weddings. Simply people with new babies, or that sort of moving house. They're all good situations that you may have chosen yourself, but the stress of that is huge. So acknowledge it and be realistic. And that's where it's important to look after yourself. So change in itself is this bewildering, stressful experience. You're not in your comfort zone, and by definition, not being in your comfort zone is uncomfortable. And acknowledge that discomfort, but then it's important to think, right, what can I do around this discomfort to sort of prop me up, sort of shore up the foundations. And one thing that's really useful is try and keep as regular a schedule as you can over the things you have some control about, because that's sort of having. So if you get up at a certain time and you say you walk your dog in the morning, try and keep doing that. Try and keep eating meals at set times, or going to gym classes, or meeting up for coffee with people that you normally do, because actually those are anchors. So your body, your mind sort of has an anchoring effect, sort of connection with these regular events, and it helps keep you grounded. It gives your mind a reminder that some things are still the same, and that offers you some respite from a difficult situation you are going through. So it's really, really important to keep those regular things going, whether it's eating, sleeping, seeing people. Do try and keep those things going. And around that, really simple things like eating as healthily as possible. I'm not saying, traditionally, when things are hard, people will reach for carbs. People will go for the sugar. They'll go for the, muffins and chocolates, because actually you get that rush of, happy hormones that negate or diminish the stress hormones from it. And that's great. That's fine. You need that. But you also need to put in place the sort of nutritional foods that will give your body and your brain the things it needs. Making sure you stay hydrated, drinking lots of water will keep your brain clear. It'll give you that bit more clarity. So don't forget those things that are really important. And the same with exercise. If you do regular exercise, try and keep that going, because it's a great way for processing, for relieving stress. And if you're not an exerciser, can you take 10 minutes out to go for a walk around the block, or do something that will help you? Because actually those times away, they're grounding. They're really important for helping you settle and process things. So as I said, there isn't this sort of quick fix for dealing with change. You will go through those stages, but allowing the feelings to come and being real with them, having that regular routine and looking after yourself physically through what you're eating and what you're doing will help ease that process and just help you to deal with it a little bit more comfortably than you otherwise would, whilst acknowledging that it is a difficult landscape to navigate. And the final thing is to be kind to yourself. Change is difficult. You feel out of control. You may be hard on yourself and say, I'm not doing things as effectively as I normally do. And that's okay. You're not, acknowledge you're not in your best. This is not you at your best. So why compare yourself to you at your best when this is a really difficult situation? Nobody says you have to function at 100% all the time, and going through a difficult time is a time to allow yourself to just be good enough. It doesn't have to be the greatest. So I hope that that's been useful for you. You know, be kind to yourself. Remember that change is difficult, and just try following some of those strategies so that you can look after yourself while you're going through the time of change. I'll see you next week. Bye.